Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow morning and the entire world looks exactly the same. The sun rises, the birds sing, cars rush down the street, and people hustle through their daily routines. Nothing seems different except one thing. You have been given the knowledge that this might be your very last day on Earth. How would you live it? Would you scroll through social media for hours, comparing yourself to strangers and celebrities? Would you argue about politics online or binge-watch random shows to numb the ache of boredom? Or would you finally say what you've been holding back? For years, the words of love, forgiveness, courage? Would you finally take that risk you've been avoiding, start that dream you've been postponing, or simply sit with someone you care about? Fully present for the first time in a long time? The truth is, this scenario isn't fantasy. It's reality, only we've learned to forget it. Every single day could be our last. And yet most of us live as if time is infinite. We postpone our dreams. We let fear dictate our choices. We waste hours, days, even years chasing things that don't matter: likes, followers, temporary approval, while ignoring the deeper purpose that's been calling to us all along. Today's video is not just another motivational clip you'll watch and forget. It's a wake-up call. It's a journey into some of the most powerful, ancient wisdom humanity has ever discovered, the kind of wisdom that has guided warriors, philosophers, and leaders through chaos and suffering for centuries. We're going to dive deep into 8 brutal Stoic laws that will challenge you, shake you, and ultimately free you from the invisible chains that hold you back. These aren't soft, feel-good tips. They are hard truths. They are battle-tested principles from thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who ruled during plagues and wars; Seneca, who faced exile and political betrayal; and Epictetus, who was born into slavery and rose to become one of the greatest teachers of freedom. These men didn't theorize from comfort. They wrote these lessons in blood, sweat, and tears while the world around them burned. But here's the amazing part. Even though they lived thousands of years ago, their wisdom is more relevant today than ever before. Because while technology has changed, human nature hasn't. We still face fear, anger, desire, and loss. We still struggle with anxiety, loneliness, and uncertainty. The difference is that now, we're bombarded by distractions every second of the day. Social media, endless notifications, constant noise. It's like living in a storm. The Stoics teach us how to be the calm eye of that storm. By the end of this video, you won't just know these laws, you'll feel them. You'll see how they apply to your life right now, whether you're battling personal demons, chasing a dream, or just trying to make sense of a chaotic world. But there's a catch. This only works if you commit to really listening, to fully engaging. So, before we begin, I need you to do something important. Pause whatever else you're doing. Close the extra tabs. Put your phone on silent. Treat this time as sacred, because it is. This might be the conversation that changes the direction of your life, and I don't want you to miss even a single moment. If you believe in growth, if you believe in becoming stronger, wiser, and freer, then support this message so it can reach more people. Like this video right now, not later now. Leave a comment as we go through these 8 laws. Share your reflections, your favorite insights, or even the challenges you're facing. It's not just about engagement metrics. It's about building a community of thinkers and doers who want to live with purpose. And if this video truly resonates with you, consider going one step further. YouTube now offers a way to directly support creators through Super Thanks. When you click that button and donate, you're not just giving money, you're fueling a mission to spread wisdom, clarity, and strength in a world that desperately needs it. You're helping me keep creating these deep, transformative videos without compromise. Lastly, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications, because this journey doesn't end here. Every week, we explore ideas that challenge conventional thinking and push you to grow. When you subscribe, you're not just hitting a button, you're joining a tribe of people committed to living consciously and courageously. Now, as we dive into these Stoic laws, I want you to keep one question in mind. What kind of person do I want to be when life gets hard? Not when everything is easy, not when the sun is shining, but when the storms hit, because they will. The answer to that question will shape your destiny. The first law will challenge you to rethink everything you've been taught about pain and discomfort. It's not what you think. Let's begin. Imagine waking up every morning with a pit in your stomach, scrolling mindlessly through your phone before you even get out of bed. Instagram, stuck in the same routine day after day. You don't even realize it, but with every scroll, you're quietly comparing yourself, tallying invisible points, and slowly chipping away at your own confidence. This is the silent defeat most people are living in today. It's not dramatic. It doesn't look like a catastrophic failure on the outside. From the surface, you might even seem fine. But deep down, there's this gnawing emptiness, this quiet voice whispering, is this really all there is? The problem isn't that we lack talent or opportunity. It's that we've become mentally weak. We chase comfort like it's oxygen. We avoid anything that feels unpleasant, uncomfortable, or scary. But ironically, the more we run from pain, the more miserable we become. Look around. We live in an age of unprecedented convenience. Food delivered to your door with a tap. Entertainment streaming instantly. Endless dopamine hits from likes and notifications. And yet, depression and anxiety are at record highs. People feel lost, unfulfilled, and overwhelmed. How can that be? Because comfort, while seductive, has a dark side. It dulls our spirit. It makes us fragile. It tricks us into thinking life should always feel good, and when it doesn't, we break. Think about how we raise kids today. We bubble wrap their entire childhoods to protect them from every bump, bruise, and disappointment. Participation trophies for everyone. No one's feelings get hurt. Fast forward to adulthood, and suddenly these kids are thrust into a world that doesn't care about fairness, a world full of rejection, failure, and competition. And they crumble because they were never taught how to deal with pain. The same pattern plays out in our own lives. We avoid hard conversations because they're awkward. We procrastinate on goals because they're challenging. We numb ourselves with Netflix, alcohol, junk food, or endless scrolling, hoping to escape discomfort. But all we're really doing is digging the hole deeper. The ancient Stoic philosophers saw this thousands of years ago, long before social media, smartphones, or self-help books. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic thinkers and a Roman emperor, famously said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That single sentence contains the key to inner freedom. Life will always throw chaos at you: loss, betrayal, illness, failure. You can't control those external storms, but you can control how you respond. And when you truly internalize that, you become unstoppable. Notice, Marcus didn't say life would become easy. He didn't promise a stress-free existence. What he offered was something much more profound: the ability to face anything with clarity and courage, because you've mastered the only thing that's truly yours, your own mind. Most of us live as if the world owes us something: happiness, fairness, recognition. We think, once I get that promotion, then I'll feel secure. Once I find the right partner, then I'll be happy. Once I make enough money, then I'll finally relax. But those wins never end. There's always another goal, another condition we place on our well-being. Meanwhile, we hand over control of our lives to circumstances we can't dictate. It's like being a puppet on strings, dancing to the tune of every little setback or success. A bad day at work ruins your mood for a week. A rude comment online derails your confidence. Someone else's highlight reel on social media leaves you feeling inadequate. It's exhausting. Stoicism flips that script completely. It teaches that happiness and strength don't come from the outside. They come from within. Instead of clinging to outcomes, the Stoic focuses on their own choices, values, and actions. Instead of blaming the world for their suffering, they take radical responsibility for their response. This isn't about becoming cold or emotionless. It's about becoming steady in a chaotic world. Imagine being the calm eye of the storm while everything swirls around you. That's Stoic power. Now, let's be honest. Most modern self-help content is sugar-coated fluff. Pretty quotes on Instagram, quick fix hacks, or motivational clips that give you a dopamine hit but change nothing. Stoicism isn't like that. It's raw. It's demanding. It's uncomfortable because it forces you to face truths you'd rather ignore. It's not about positive thinking or pretending everything is fine. It's about building a mind so strong that no matter what happens, you remain unshaken. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his reflections while lounging on a beach. He wrote them in the middle of wars, plagues, and political betrayal. Seneca, another Stoic, faced exile and the threat of death. Yet he wrote letters full of wisdom about resilience and courage. Epictetus was literally born a slave, crippled from beatings. Yet he became one of the most powerful teachers of freedom through inner strength. These men didn't theorize from comfort. They've battle-tested their philosophy in the harshest conditions imaginable. And that's why Stoicism is so painfully relevant today. Our struggles may look different: traffic jams, toxic workplaces, financial stress, but the human heart hasn't changed. We still deal with fear, anger, grief, and desire. The difference is that we now have distractions that make it easier to avoid facing those inner battles. We scroll, we binge, we numb, but deep down we know something's off. We know we were meant for more than just consuming content and chasing temporary highs. Stoicism calls us back to our own power. It challenges us to stop being passive spectators and start being active participants in our own lives. This video isn't here to coddle you. It's not background noise while you multitask. It's a wake-up call, because the truth is, you already have everything you need to become mentally and emotionally strong. The tools are ancient, but the application is urgent. Over the next few minutes, we're going to dive deep into 8 brutal Stoic laws. These aren't soft, inspirational ideas. They're hard, practical truths that will push you to grow. They'll challenge your assumptions, break down your excuses, and force you to see life differently. Some of what you hear may sting. You might even resist it at first because part of you doesn't want to change. That's normal. Growth always feels uncomfortable at the start, just like working out a muscle you haven't used before. But discomfort is the price of transformation. Before we get into the first law, I want you to pause and make a decision. Don't just passively watch this like another YouTube clip you'll forget by tomorrow. Engage with it. As we go through these principles, if something hits home, write it down. Drop a comment with your favorite insight. Share this video with someone you care about. And most importantly, commit to applying at least one lesson immediately. Because knowledge without action is useless. The Stoics didn't just sit around talking about philosophy. They lived it. They practiced it daily, especially when it was hard. If you want to build real strength, you must do the same. Here's the reality. No one is coming to save you. No government program, no perfect partner, no magical opportunity is going to hand you the life you dream of. It's on you. That might sound harsh, but it's also incredibly liberating. Because if your happiness depends on something outside of you, you'll always be vulnerable. But if your happiness depends on mastering your own mind, no one can take it away. That's what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Picture yourself as a warrior standing at the center of a chaotic battlefield. Arrows flying, swords clashing. The noise of conflict all around. You can't control the battlefield. You can't stop the arrows or command the enemy. But you can control your stance, your focus, your next move. That's life. The world will always be messy and unpredictable. Your job isn't to fix the chaos. Your job is to remain steady within it. That's the essence of Stoicism. So as we dive into these 8 laws, keep this in mind. They won't make life easier. They'll make you tougher. They'll strip away illusions and force you to confront uncomfortable truths. But on the other side of that discomfort is freedom, the kind of freedom most people will never experience because they're too busy chasing comfort and avoiding pain. If you're ready to stop living in quiet defeat and start living with purpose, you're in the right place. This is your moment to wake up, take ownership, and begin the journey toward becoming unshakable. We've been taught our entire lives to avoid pain, to seek comfort at every turn, to build a life that is safe, easy, and predictable. From the time we were kids, we've been conditioned to believe that happiness equals comfort and discomfort equals danger. Parents tell their children, "Don't touch that, don't climb there, be careful, don't get hurt." As adults, that same mindset carries over, but the stakes change. Instead of scraped knees, it's avoiding difficult conversations, steering clear of risks, and staying stuck in jobs, relationships, and routines that feel safe even though they're slowly draining the life out of us. The paradox is this. The very thing we've been trained to avoid discomfort is exactly where our growth and power come from. The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. They saw hardship not as punishment, but as a forge. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, didn't just endure wars, plagues, and betrayal. He saw them as opportunities to strengthen his mind and spirit. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That line isn't poetic fluff. It's a blueprint for life. What it means is simple. Every obstacle is a chance to rise. Every challenge is an invitation to develop resilience, discipline, and wisdom. Think about it this way. When you go to the gym, you don't get stronger by lifting feathers. You grow by lifting something heavy, by pushing your muscles to their limits. That tension, that burn is uncomfortable, even painful, but it's the very thing that builds strength. Life works the same way. When you face challenges, whether it's a tough boss, a health scare, financial struggles, or a personal betrayal, you are, in a very real sense, lifting emotional and mental weights. Avoid the workout, and you stay weak. Embrace it, and you get stronger. Most people today run from even the smallest discomfort. A cold shower? Too unpleasant. Speaking up for themselves? Too awkward. Sitting alone in silence? Too boring. But every time you avoid discomfort, you pay a hidden price. You become softer, more fragile, less prepared for the inevitable storms of life. Then, when a real crisis hits, you're shocked, unprepared, and easily broken. The Stoics flipped this idea upside down. They actively sought out discomfort in controlled, intentional ways, not because they were masochists, but because they knew that if you train with small, chosen hardships, you'll be ready when life throws unexpected hardships your way. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, would periodically sleep on the floor, eat the simplest, cheapest food, and wear old, ragged clothes. He wasn't doing this because he had to. He was wealthy and powerful. He did his practice. He wanted to remind himself, is this the condition I feared? By stripping away luxury and comfort, even temporarily, he trained his mind to remain calm and unshaken no matter what happened. This practice is more relevant now than ever. Take a modern example. Imagine someone who has always lived a life of luxury, never cooked a meal, never cleaned their home, never dealt with real financial stress. Then one day, their circumstances change, they lose a job, a relationship ends, or an economic downer hits. That person doesn't just struggle, they collapse because they've never built the mental calluses needed to endure hardship. Compare that to someone who has practiced living simply, who has faced small challenges regularly. When life gets tough, they adapt. They don't love the pain, but they aren't destroyed by it either. The good news is you don't have to wait for life to hit you with chaos before you start training. You can choose to face discomfort. Now, it doesn't have to be extreme. Start small. Take a cold shower instead of a hot one. Skip a meal once in a while to remind yourself that hunger isn't an emergency. Leave your phone in another room and sit alone with your thoughts, even if it feels uncomfortable. Have that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Push yourself to go to the gym when you'd rather binge watch Netflix. These small acts of voluntary discomfort are like micro reps for your mind. Over time, they build an inner strength that no one can take from you. The key is to change your relationship with discomfort. Most people see it as an enemy to flee from. The Stoic sees it as a sparring partner teacher. When something feels hard, instead of thinking, "This shouldn't be happening," try thinking, "This is my training ground." That shift alone transforms struggle into growth. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start being a student of life. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What can I learn from this?" This doesn't just apply to physical discomfort. It's just as important when it comes to emotional pain. In today's world, people are ruled by their emotions without even realizing it. Someone says something rude and you snap back in anger. Your plans get disrupted and you spiral into frustration. You feel lazy, so you skip the gym or procrastinate on important work. We've normalized this so much that we don't even see it as a problem. But the Stoics were brutally honest about it. If you are ruled by your emotions, you are a slave to them. Epictetus, who was literally born into slavery and later became one of the most influential Stoic teachers, put it this way: any person capable of angering you becomes your master. They can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by them. Think about that for a moment. When someone cuts you off in traffic and you fly into a rage, you've handed them control of your inner peace. When a stranger leaves a mean comment online and it ruins your day, you've given them power over you. That's like handing your car keys to a random person and letting them drive you wherever they want. It sounds absurd, but that's what we do emotionally every day. The Stoic approach is radically different. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending you don't feel them. It's about creating space between feeling and reaction. Imagine your mind like a stage. Emotions are the actors who walk onto the stage, but you are the director. You don't have to. Let every actor run wild. You can observe them, decide how to respond, or even choose to let them leave without giving them the spotlight. This is emotional mastery. For example, let's say you're at work and your boss criticizes you unfairly in front of your team. Your gut reaction might be to snap back, defend yourself, or stew in silent resentment. A Stoic would do something different. They would pause, literally take a breath, notice the surge of anger rising, and then ask themselves, is this feeling useful right now? Instead of reacting impulsively, they respond intentionally. Maybe by calmly addressing the issue later in private, or by simply letting it go if it doesn't truly matter. The situation hasn't changed, but the power dynamic has. You've gone from being controlled to being in control. This skill is rare and incredibly valuable in today's emotionally chaotic world. Look at social media. Outrage is everywhere. People are constantly being triggered, constantly reacting, constantly at war with strangers online. It's like a massive emotional puppet show where everyone is pulling everyone else's strings. When you develop emotional discipline, you step off that stage entirely. You stop being yanked around by every little thing. You become grounded, calm, and unshakable. And ironically, people notice. In a world full of reactivity, calmness is magnetic. It's a superpower. Of course, this isn't easy. Just like physical strength requires consistent training, emotional strength requires practice. Start small. The next time you feel triggered, don't act right away. Count to 5. Take a slow, deep breath. Label the emotions silently. This is anger, or this is fear. Just naming it creates a bit of distance. Then, ask yourself, what's the best response here? Sometimes the answer is to act. Sometimes it's to do nothing at all. Over time, these small pauses add up, and you start to realize you don't have to be a prisoner of your moods. The connection between discomfort and emotional mastery runs deep. When you train yourself to face physical or situational discomfort, cold showers, hunger, silence, you're also building the mental muscles needed to sit with uncomfortable feelings without immediately reacting. It's all connected. That's why the Stoics didn't separate these practices. For them, life itself was the training ground. Every challenge, every irritation, every hardship was a chance to sharpen their inner blade. Think about some of the most admired figures in modern history, people like Martin Luther King Jr., Mahatma Gandhi, or Viktor Frankl. These were individuals who faced unimaginable external pressures and yet remained steady. They didn't let hatred, fear, or chaos dictate their actions. That level of inner strength doesn't come from luck. It comes from disciplined practice, from a lifetime of choosing response over reaction, courage over comfort. You could begin that same journey today. Start by reframing how you see discomfort. The next time something feels hard, whether it's a challenging workout, a tense conversation, or a moment of fear, remind yourself, this is my chance to grow. Then, when emotions flare, remember that you are the director, not the actor. You can choose your response. With every small victory, you're building an unshakable foundation. Over time, these two principles, embracing discomfort and mastering your emotions, become the bedrock of a resilient life. They reinforce each other. The more you lean into discomfort, the less power your emotions have over you. The more you master your emotions, the more confidently you can face discomfort. Together, they form a cycle of growth that turns ordinary challenges into extraordinary opportunities. Most people will never experience this kind of strength because they never step outside their comfort zone and never take responsibility for their inner world. But you don't have to be most people. You can choose a different path, a Stoic path. It won't be easy and it won't always feel good, but it will be worth it because at the end of the day, a life spent avoiding pain isn't safe. It's wasted. A life spent embracing challenge, mastering yourself, and growing through struggle, that's a life well lived. One of the hardest truths to accept is that life is not fair and it never will be. We grow up on stories, movies, and lessons that tell us good always triumphs over evil. That if we work hard and play by the rules, we will be rewarded. It's comforting to believe this, but reality doesn't work that way. Sometimes the most hardworking employee gets passed over for promotion, while someone who plays politics and cuts corners rises to the top. Sometimes people who lie and cheat seem to win, while those who act with integrity face loss after loss. You can pour your heart into a relationship, love someone with everything you have, and still watch them walk away. You can make all the right choices and still get hit by a random tragedy. If you expect life to always treat you fairly, you're setting yourself up for constant disappointment and bitterness. When we cling to the idea of fairness, we create a silent contract with the universe. If I do good, good things should happen to me. But the universe never signed that contract. When life breaks the deal, as it inevitably will, you feel betrayed, angry, even hopeless. Think about how you feel when someone cuts in line at the coffee shop or when a coworker takes credit for your work. It's a small example, but it shows how deeply we crave fairness. Now, magnify that to the bigger injustices in life, losing a job despite years of loyalty, being treated unfairly because of your background, or watching people with power exploit others while facing no consequences. The anger and frustration can eat you alive if you let them. The Stoics saw this clearly. They never expected life to be fair. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire filled with corruption, betrayal, and violence. Seneca lived through political turmoil where people were executed not because they were guilty, but because they were inconvenient to those in power. Epictetus was born a slave and lived with physical disability. These men experienced injustice at levels most of us can hardly imagine, and yet they didn't waste their energy raging at the unfairness of it all. Instead, they focused on what they could control: their own choices, their own responses, their own inner state. Seneca once wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." Simply getting up and facing another day in a world that doesn't play fair is itself an act of strength. That line might sound dramatic, but think about it. Every single day, you are confronted with situations you cannot fix. You cannot force people to act with integrity. You cannot make others love you back. You cannot guarantee success no matter how hard you work. And yet, you still have to keep moving forward. That is courage. When you expect fairness, you set yourself up to feel like a victim whenever life doesn't go your way. Victimhood is seductive because it gives you someone or something to blame. It's their fault, I'm unhappy. The system is against me. If only they hadn't done this to me. These thoughts feel good for a moment because they absolve you of responsibility. But they also trap you. When you define yourself as a victim, you give away your power. You convince yourself that your happiness depends on forces outside your control, and in doing so, you become helpless. The Stoic alternative is radical responsibility. This doesn't mean you take the blame for everything that happens. It means you take ownership of your response to everything that happens. You can't control whether life is fair, but you can control whether you let unfairness destroy your peace of mind. You can't control how other people behave, but you can control whether you sink to their level or rise above it. You don't get to choose the hand you're dealt, but you always get to choose how you play it. Consider a real-world example. Imagine two people who are both laid off from their jobs. The first person spends weeks ranting about how unfair it is, blaming their boss, the economy, or bad luck. They feel powerless, stuck, and bitter. The second person still feels the pain and anger. It's natural, but they quickly shift their focus to what they can control. They update their resume, reach out to contacts, learn new skills, and take action. The situation is the same, but the outcomes are very different because one person gave away their power while the other reclaimed it. This brings us to one of the most fundamental Stoic principles. Focus only on what you can control and let go of the rest. Epictetus put it simply, make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you free yourself from endless stress and frustration. Most of our anxiety comes from worrying about things we have no influence over. We obsess over other people's opinions, future outcomes, and random events, and in doing so, we drain our energy and peace. The first step is to clearly distinguish between what's within your control and what isn't. Within your control are your thoughts, your actions, your choices, and your reactions. Outside your control are almost everything else, other people's behavior, the weather, the economy, random accidents, and even many outcomes of your efforts. You can control how you study for an exam, but you can't control whether the teacher writes a fair test. You can control how you treat someone you care about, but you can't control whether they love you back. You can control how hard you work on a project, but you can't guarantee that your boss will recognize it or that the market will reward it. Once you see this distinction clearly, your life changes. Instead of wasting energy trying to force the world to bend to your will, you focus on mastering yourself. It's like being a sailor in a storm. You can't control the wind or the waves, but you can control how you set your sails, how you steer the ship, and whether you stay calm or panic. Screaming at the storm does nothing. Steering the ship saves you. Let's take a modern, relatable example. Say you post something online, a photo, a piece of writing, a video, and it doesn't get the likes or comments you hope for. Most people spiral into negative thoughts. Nobody cares about me. I'm not good enough. Why even bother? They're focusing on what's outside their control. Other people's reactions. A Stoic approach will be different. You would focus on what you could control, the quality of your work, the intention behind it, the effort you put in. Whether others respond positively or not is irrelevant. By shifting your attention inward, you take back your power. This mindset is especially helpful in relationships. You can't control whether someone respects you, but you can control how you carry yourself and what boundaries you set. If someone mistreats you, you can't make them change, but you can decide to walk away. When you focus on controlling others, you set yourself up for constant disappointment. When you focus on controlling yourself, you find peace and strength. One practical exercise to apply this principle is to ask yourself, whenever you feel stressed or upset, is this within my control? If the answer is yes, take action. If the answer is no, practice letting it go. This sounds simple, but it's incredibly powerful. For instance, if you're stuck in traffic, yelling at other drivers does nothing. Your options are to drive carefully, maybe listen to an audiobook, and accept that you'll arrive when you arrive. The traffic itself is outside your control. The same goes for larger issues. You can vote, donate, or advocate for causes you believe in, but you can't single-handedly fix the world. Focus on your actions, not on the outcome. At first, this practice may feel unnatural because we're so used to obsessing over external things. We want people to like us. We want perfect results. We want the world to behave a certain way. But the more you practice letting go, the lighter you feel. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with worries about things you can't control. Every time you release one of those worries, it's like taking a stone out of the pack. Eventually, you can move freely. This doesn't mean you become passive or indifferent. On the contrary, Stoicism encourages action, but action focused where it matters most. It's not about giving up. It's about showing up fully where you have power and accepting reality where you don't. For example, if you're training for a marathon, you focus on your preparation, your runs, your diet, your rest. On race day, you might face unexpected weather or tough competition. Those factors are outside your control. If you fixate on them, you'll waste energy. If you focus on your own effort, you'll perform at your best, regardless of the outcome. The combination of these two truths, accepting that life is unfair and focusing only on what you can control, is profoundly liberating. When you stop expecting the world to be fair, you stop being shocked and crushed when it isn't. Instead, you meet reality as it is. You say to yourself, yes, this situation is unjust. Yes, I wish it were different, but I can't control that. What I can control is how I respond. That response is where your freedom lies. Consider how this plays out in the workplace. Maybe a colleague takes credit for your idea. That's unfair. You can stew in resentment, gossip about them, or let it poison your mood for weeks. Or you can focus on what's within your control, calmly addressing the issue with your boss, documenting your contributions, or doubling down on your own excellence so clearly that it can't be ignored. One path drains you. The other empowers you. When you internalize this mindset, setbacks no longer feel like personal attacks. They become challenges to navigate. You start to see every problem as a two-part equation: external events outside your control and your response inside your control. Your job is to focus relentlessly on the second half of the equation. Over time, this builds resilience. You stop being tossed around by every wave of life. You become like a deeply rooted tree that bends in the wind but doesn't break. The modern world is filled with noise, chaos, and uncertainty. There will always be injustice, always be circumstances beyond your reach. If you spend your life fighting the fact that the world isn't fair, you will exhaust yourself and accomplish nothing. But if you accept it and focus on mastering yourself, you will find a calm, steady strength that no one can take from you. The Stoics weren't naive. They didn't deny the existence of pain, loss, or cruelty. They simply refused to let those things define them. That is the path of true freedom. Every time you catch yourself wishing life were fair, pause and remember. Fairness is a human invention, not a universal law. The world doesn't owe you anything. And yet, within that reality lies immense opportunity. You have complete control over your mind, your actions, and your character. That is where your power resides. Let go of the rest. Focus on what you can control, and you will find strength even in the midst of chaos. Most people live their lives hoping that hardship never comes, wishing that the road will always be smooth and predictable. But deep down, we all know that life doesn't work that way. Challenges are inevitable. You will face loss, failure, betrayal, disappointment, and situations you never saw coming. The question isn't if those hardships will arrive, but when. And when they do, will you crumble or will you stand firm? The difference lies in preparation. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your training. That's why the Stoics didn't wait for life to test them. They trained themselves in advance. Seneca, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, believed in what we might call voluntary hardship. He advised people to deliberately introduce small, controlled forms of discomfort into their lives, not because suffering is inherently good, but because it builds resilience. When you practice being uncomfortable by choice, real discomfort doesn't shock you when it shows up uninvited. Seneca would periodically sleep on the floor, wear simple and rough clothing, and eat the plainest, cheapest food, even though he had wealth and luxury at his fingertips. As he did so, he would remind himself, "Is this what I feared?" This was his way of proving to himself that the things he once dreaded weren't as terrifying as his mind made them out to be. In our modern world, voluntary hardship might look different, but the principle is exactly the same. You could take a cold shower in the morning instead of a hot one, just to practice enduring discomfort. You could fast for 24 hours not to lose weight, but to remind yourself that hunger isn't an emergency and that you can control your urges. You might choose to walk or bike instead of driving. When it's inconvenient, to say no to luxuries you can afford, or to spend a weekend without your phone or TV, sitting quietly with your own thoughts. These practices might seem small, even silly, but over time they build a deep inner toughness. Imagine two people going through the same external crisis, like losing a job or going through a breakup. The first person has lived their whole life in a bubble of comfort. They've never been challenged, never faced real difficulty. When the crisis hits, they spiral into panic because they've never built the muscles of resilience. The second person has been training in small ways every day, getting up early to exercise, pushing through hard tasks, saying no to temptations, embracing discomfort voluntarily. When the crisis hits, they still feel pain, but they don't collapse. They've rehearsed for moments like this. They know they can survive. The Stoics understood that hardship is inevitable, so the wise thing to do is practice for it. Just like an athlete trains before the big game, or a firefighter drills before the emergency, you should prepare yourself mentally and physically before life demands it. That way, when real chaos arrives, you don't freeze. You act with clarity and courage. Think of it like a fire drill for your soul. If you practice staying calm and focused under self-imposed stress, you'll be ready when the real fire comes. One of the biggest benefits of voluntary hardship is that it changes your relationship with fear. Most of our fears are about imagined discomfort. We dread losing money, status, or comfort because we've never experienced life without them. But when you deliberately strip away comforts and survive, you realize that you're stronger than you thought. For example, fasting for a day teaches you that hunger won't kill you. Taking a cold shower teaches you that discomfort is temporary. Sleeping on the floor reminds you that you don't need a luxury mattress to rest. These realizations free you from anxiety because they show you that you can handle more than you think. Consider the modern obsession with convenience. Technology has made our lives incredibly easy. We can order food with a tap, binge endless entertainment, and avoid almost all physical labor. But this constant ease has a hidden cost. It makes us fragile. When the smallest thing goes wrong, a flight delay, a power outage, a slow internet connection, we lose our minds. Compare this to someone who regularly practices inconvenience. They don't just tolerate it, they thrive in it. When a real crisis happens, they are calm while everyone else is panicking. They've built a kind of quiet confidence that can only come from experience. Voluntary hardship isn't about punishment or self-hate. It's about preparation. It's telling yourself, I'm willing to face small, chosen difficulties now so that I can handle big, unchosen difficulties later. It's a form of training. Just as soldiers train in simulated battles so they're ready for real ones, you train through small daily challenges so you're ready for life's inevitable storms. Even simple practices, waking up early when you want to sleep in, finishing a workout when your body wants to quit, having an uncomfortable conversation you've been avoiding can serve as drills for your character. This leads directly into another crucial Stoic teaching: detaching from outcomes and falling in love with the process. Most of us have been conditioned to obsess over results. We set goals, dream of achievements, and tie our self-worth to whether or not we succeed. I'll be happy when I get the promotion. I'll feel proud when I lose 10 pounds. I'll finally relax when my bank account hits this number. The problem with this mindset is that results are never fully within your control. You could do everything right and still fail because of factors outside your influence: timing, luck, other people's decisions, or random chance. When your happiness depends on outcomes, you set yourself up for constant disappointment. Imagine training for a marathon. You control your preparation, how often you run, how you eat, how you rest. But on race day, you can't control the weather, the terrain, or the competition. If you tie your entire sense of worth to winning, you will likely suffer because so much of that outcome is out of your hands. A Stoic approach will be different. You focus on the process, your daily training, your effort, your discipline. If you run your absolute best and someone else happens to run faster, you can still walk away proud because you mastered what you could control. Marcus Aurelius captured this idea perfectly when he wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." In other words, don't obsess over future results. Instead, focus on showing up fully in the present moment. Build the habits, skills, and mindset you need today, and trust that those will serve you tomorrow. Whatever comes, this shift in focus is incredibly freeing. When you fall in love with the process, you become resilient. Success doesn't inflate your ego, and failure doesn't crush you, because neither defines you. What defines you is your consistent effort, your integrity, and your growth. Think about athletes, artists, or entrepreneurs who achieve lasting excellence. The ones who burn out are usually those who are addicted to external validation, fame, applause, money. When those rewards fade, they collapse. The ones who thrive for decades are those who genuinely love the craft itself. A writer who writes because they love the act of writing will keep going even when their book flops. A musician who plays because they love music will keep playing whether or not anyone listens. This is the Stoic mindset applied to modern life. When you focus on the process, you can endure setbacks because the work itself is the reward. In everyday life, this principle applies to almost everything. In your career, focus on learning and contributing rather than obsessing over promotions or titles. In relationships, focus on how you show up as a loving, honest, respectful partner rather than trying to control whether the other person responds exactly as you want. In personal growth, focus on the habit of showing up each day, not on the fantasy of some perfect future self. When you shift from outcome obsession to process love, you stop riding the emotional roller coaster of constant highs and lows. You become steady. It's natural to care about results. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be indifferent to them. What it asks is that you hold them lightly. Care, but don't cling. Work hard, but don't tie your identity to whether you win or lose. This way, you remain stable in victory and defeat. You celebrate progress without arrogance and face setbacks without despair. This stability is rare in a world where most people's moods swing wildly based on external events. The beauty of combining voluntary hardship with process focus is that they reinforce each other. When you practice small challenges daily, you learn to value effort over ease. You stop craving constant comfort and start respecting discipline. And when you detach from outcomes, you stop fearing failure. Failure simply becomes another form of feedback, another step in the journey. Together, these practices build an unshakable foundation. You become the kind of person who can walk through chaos with calm confidence because you've trained for it, and because you don't need the world to cooperate for you to feel whole. Consider a modern example, starting a business. Most startups fail, and many people never even try because they're terrified of that possibility. But someone who embraces voluntary hardship and loves the process sees things differently. They understand that failure is not fatal. It's part of the training. They focus on learning, building, iterating. They expect discomfort, long hours, rejection, and uncertainty. When setbacks come, they don't panic, they adapt. And because their worth isn't tied to immediate success, they keep moving forward until they eventually create something meaningful. At its core, This way of living is about freedom. When you can face discomfort voluntarily and embrace the process without clinging to results, you are free from fear and free from the tyranny of external validation. The world will still be chaotic, but you won't be tossed around by every twist and turn. You'll be grounded in something deeper, your own inner strength built through daily practice. Life will always bring challenges you didn't choose. You might lose someone you love, face a health crisis, or watch a dream collapse. Those moments will hurt. Stoicism doesn't deny the pain. What it offers is a way to face it without breaking. By training through voluntary hardship and focusing on the process rather than the outcome, you prepare yourself to meet adversity with clarity, courage, and grace. Instead of being blindsided by life's storms, you become the kind of person who can navigate them. In the end, you can't control what life throws at you, but you can control how ready you are to meet it. You can't guarantee success, but you can guarantee effort. You can't predict the future, but you can show up fully today. That's the essence of Stoic preparation. To live in such a way that when hardship comes, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. Because you've trained for this moment all along. One of the most powerful truths the Stoics taught is also one that most people today run from. You're going to die. Not someday in some far-off, abstract future, but at a time you don't get to choose and likely won't expect. We live as if we have an infinite supply of tomorrows, as if there will always be another chance to fix a broken relationship, chase a dream, or finally become the person we know we could be. But that's a dangerous illusion. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. This practice of remembering death has a Latin name, memento mori, which means remember that you will die. To modern ears, this sounds dark or morbid, but the Stoics saw it as the opposite. They didn't meditate on death to be gloomy. They did it to wake up. When you truly understand that your time is limited, every moment takes on urgency and clarity. Suddenly, scrolling aimlessly on social media for hours feels like pouring your life down the drain. That grudge you've been holding seems pointless. That dream you've been putting off for someday becomes something you either act on now or let go forever. Seneca captured this perfectly when he wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Most people don't need more years. They need to stop squandering the ones they already have. Think about how you spend a typical day. How many hours are lost to distractions, petty arguments, or mindless habits? We say things like, I don't have time to work out, or I don't have time to start that side project, or I'll travel, forgive, create, or change when things slow down. But the truth is, we have time, we just choose to waste it on things that don't matter. Consider how fragile life really is. A healthy person can have their entire world upended by a single phone. Call a diagnosis, an accident, a loss. We don't like to think about this because it's scary, but avoiding it doesn't make it less true. When you acknowledge your mortality, you stop taking your days for granted. You stop living on autopilot. You start asking deeper questions. If today were my last day, how would I want to spend it? Who would I want to be with? What would I want to say or do? Imagine being told you only have 6 months to live. What would change? You'd probably stop caring about petty drama. You'd finally tell people you love them. You'd stop procrastinating and focus on what truly matters. The Stoic challenge is to live with that same urgency now, before the countdown begins, because in reality, the countdown has already started. You just don't know the number. This doesn't mean living recklessly or constantly chasing thrills. It means living deliberately. It means cutting out the meaningless noise and aligning your actions with your values. When you remember that time is your most precious resource, you become fiercely protective of it. You stop saying yes to obligations that drain you. You stop wasting energy on people who don't respect you. You focus on creating, contributing, and connecting in ways that matter. Look at how much time people waste online. Hours vanish scrolling through TikTok, arguing with strangers on Twitter, or obsessing over likes and comments on Instagram. None of this will matter at the end of your life. No one on their deathbed says, I wish I had spent more time on Facebook. What they regret are the conversations they didn't have, the risks they didn't take, the love they didn't express. Awareness of death cuts through these illusions and brings you back to what's real. This brings us to the second part of this lesson. Living not for the applause of others, but for the integrity of your own soul. In today's world, it's incredibly easy to get trapped in the pursuit of external validation. Social media has turned life into a performance where we measure our worth in likes, views, and followers. People carefully curate their image, posting only the highlights, always angling for approval. But Marcus Aurelius offered a radical alternative, just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. This is a call to live with virtue, even when no one is watching. To do what is right not because it will get you praise, but because it is aligned with your deepest values. In a world obsessed with appearances, this is both revolutionary and liberating. It frees you from the exhausting game of trying to please everyone. You no longer need to impress or manipulate. You simply focus on being the kind of person your future self will respect. Living for virtue rather than approval is hard because the easy path is tempting. It's easier to lie than to tell the uncomfortable truth. It's easier to cut corners than to hold yourself to a high standard. It's easier to go along with the crowd than to stand alone. But every time you choose the easy path, you weaken your character. Every time you choose what's right over what's easy, you strengthen it. Consider someone who cheats to get ahead at work. They might gain temporary rewards of promotion, a bonus, admiration from peers. But deep down, they know they compromise their integrity. That inner fracture eats away at them, whether they admit it or not. On the flip side, think of someone who turns down a shady opportunity, even if it costs them. Financially, they may not get applause, but they gain something far more valuable: self-respect. They can look in the mirror without flinching. Virtue isn't about being perfect. It's about consistently aligning your actions with your principles. It's about being the same person in private that you are in public. This is especially important in an age where so many people project false versions of themselves online. The world doesn't need more influencers with polished images. It needs more real, grounded human beings who act with integrity. One practical way to live this out is to ask yourself before making a decision: if the whole world could see this choice, would I be proud of it? Seneca put it this way: I will govern my life and thoughts as if the whole world were to see the one and read the other. When you live transparently like this, you eliminate the need for secrecy or deception. Your inner and outer worlds are aligned. Another trap to avoid is tying your sense of identity to external success. If you live for applause, you will constantly be at the mercy of other people's opinions. Today they praise you. Tomorrow they criticize you. One viral moment makes you feel invincible, and one failure makes you feel worthless. It's an emotional roller coaster that never ends. When you live for virtue, your sense of self becomes steady. Whether people cheer or boo, you remain the same. Think about historical figures we still admire today, people like Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., or Mother Teresa. They weren't focused on being popular. In fact, they often faced intense criticism and even hatred during their lifetimes. What set them apart was their unwavering commitment to what they believed was right. Their integrity outlasted the noise of their era. The same principle applies to us on a smaller scale. You may not lead a movement, but you can lead your own life with the same quiet courage. Living with virtue also means letting go of ego. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor of Rome, constantly reminded himself that fame is fleeting and that death comes for everyone. The praise of others is temporary. The only lasting thing is the quality of your soul. When you focus on this, you become unshakable. You stop being swayed by trends or gossip. You become a person of substance rather than a performer seeking attention. This doesn't mean you isolate yourself or stop caring about others. It means you shift your focus from how you are perceived to who you actually are. You still engage with the world, but you do so from a place of inner strength rather than neediness. Ironically, When you stop trying to be liked, people respect you more. Authenticity has a power that performance never can. The connection between remembering death and living for virtue is profound. When you keep your mortality in mind, you realize how absurd it is to waste your limited time chasing approval. Imagine spending your last days on Earth worrying about whether strangers on the internet think you're cool. It's ridiculous, but that's exactly how many people live. Awareness of death cuts through that nonsense. It reminds you that what truly matters is not how many people clap for you, but whether you lived with courage, honesty, and love. Here's a simple practice. Every morning, take a moment to visualize your own mortality. Not in a morbid way, but as a reminder of urgency. Tell yourself, today is a gift. It could be my last. How will I use it? Then, throughout the day, when you face a decision, ask, if this were my final act, would I be proud of it? These questions keep you anchored in what really matters. For example, say you're in an argument with a loved one. Your ego wants to win, to prove you're right. But if you imagine that this could be your last conversation with them, suddenly being right doesn't matter so much. What matters is expressing love and understanding. Or think about a project you've been putting off. If you knew you only had a month to live, would you keep procrastinating? Probably not. This perspective cuts through excuses and ignites action. Living this way also requires setting boundaries. When you value your time, you stop giving it away carelessly. You say no to things that don't align with your purpose. You surround yourself with people who uplift you instead of draining you. You stop chasing shallow status symbols and focus on building a life of meaning. This isn't selfishness, it's clarity. When you live with purpose, you have more to give to others because you're not constantly depleted by distractions. Ultimately, remembering death and living for virtue are two sides of the same coin. Memento mori reminds you that your time is finite, so don't waste it. Marcus Aurelius' teaching reminds you that what you do with that time matters more than anything. The goal isn't to be famous, rich, or admired. The goal is to live in such a way that, when your final moment comes, you can meet it without regret. Every day, you're writing the story of your life. One day that story will end. You don't control the length of the book, but you do control its content. Will it be a story of distractions and vanity, or of courage and integrity? The choice is yours, and the time to make it is now. When you live with urgency and virtue, you don't just prepare for death, you elevate life itself. Life will never be simple, predictable, or perfectly fair. It will always throw challenges, chaos, and unexpected turns your way. But you have a choice in how you meet those challenges. The Stoics left us a path, a series of principles that, when practiced, don't make life easy but make you unshakable. These 8 laws are not separate ideas. They form a journey, a transformation from fragility to strength. It begins with facing difficulty instead of running from it. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid discomfort, believing that happiness comes from staying safe and cozy. But that illusion is shattered the moment real hardship arrives: a job loss, a betrayal, a sudden illness. If you spend your whole life avoiding struggle, you're like a soldier who shows up to battle having never trained. The Stoics knew that the only way to build resilience is to walk straight into the fire. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is your training ground. Every challenge you face is like lifting a weight. It may hurt, but it's making you stronger. From there, you must learn to master your emotions. It's natural to feel anger, fear, sadness, or joy. Emotions are part of being human. But when you let them control your actions, you become their slave. Epictetus said, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master." Think about how often this happens in daily life. A rude comment online ruins your mood. A small setback at work derails your focus for the whole day. The Stoic goal isn't to suppress feelings, but to create space between emotion and reaction. It's like driving a car. The emotions are passengers, and you are the driver. They can be loud and distracting, but they don't get to grab the wheel unless you let them. Mastering your emotions is the foundation of inner freedom. The next step is accepting the hard truth that life is not fair. Good people suffer, while those who cheat sometimes prosper. The world doesn't operate on a simple system of justice, no matter how much we wish it did. If you cling to the belief that life should be fair, every injustice will crush you. Marcus Aurelius himself ruled an empire filled with corruption and betrayal, yet he didn't spend his energy raging at the unfairness of it all. Instead, he focused on what he could control: his own character and decisions. When you stop expecting life to be fair, you stop being shocked when it isn't. This doesn't mean giving up on making the world better. It means you stop tying your peace of mind to outcomes you can't control. That brings us to one of the most central Stoic teachings. Focus on what you can control and let go of everything else. This sounds simple, but it's profoundly life-changing. There are only a few things truly under your control: your thoughts, your choices, your actions, and your reactions. Everything else, other people's opinions, random events, external circumstances, is beyond your power. Most of our stress comes from fighting this reality, trying to control things that were never ours. To control, imagine standing on a beach and yelling at the tide to stop coming in. It's pointless and exhausting. Instead, the Stoic builds a boat and learns to sail the waves. When you focus only on your own actions, you reclaim your energy and find calm in the middle of chaos. Once you've embraced discomfort, mastered your emotions, accepted life's unfairness, and focused on what you can control, you're ready to take the next step, deliberately training your willpower through voluntary hardship. Life will test you whether you like it or not, so it's wise to practice in advance. Seneca would sleep on the floor, eat the simplest food, and remind himself, "Is this what I feared?" In our modern world, this could mean fasting for a day, taking a cold shower, or saying no to a luxury you can afford. These small, chosen challenges prepare you for the unchosen ones. When life takes something away unexpectedly, you won't panic, you'll adapt. You've rehearsed this, but as you face these challenges, it's vital to detach from results. Most people tie their self-worth to outcomes: promotions, relationships, money, recognition. The problem is, outcomes are never fully under your control. You can do everything right and still fail because of timing, luck, or other people's choices. If your identity depends on winning, you become fragile. The Stoic focuses on the process instead. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." In other words, show up fully in the present, do your best, and let go of the rest. When you fall in love with the process, you become resilient. Success feels good, but it doesn't define you. Failure stings, but it doesn't destroy you. With this mindset, you begin to see time differently. You realize that tomorrow is not promised. Death is the great equalizer, and most people live as if they have forever. They waste years scrolling, arguing, and procrastinating, always assuming there will be more time later. The Stoics practiced memento mori, remembering that you will die, not to be morbid, but to wake up. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Imagine being told you had 6 months to live. Suddenly, trivial concerns would vanish. You'd stop putting off the things that truly matter. The Stoic challenge is to live with that urgency now, before the countdown begins, because in truth, it already has. Finally, at the heart of the Stoic path is virtue. In a world obsessed with likes, followers, and external validation, Marcus Aurelius offered a radical idea: just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. This means living with integrity even when no one is watching. It means being the same person in private that you are in public. Most people live for applause, bending their values to please others. But when you live for virtue, you become steady and free. You stop chasing approval because you no longer need it. Even if you lose everything: status, money, reputation, you still have your core intact. That's real power. These 8 laws form a journey of transformation. First, you face difficulty and stop running from it. Then, you master your emotions, so they no longer control you. You accept that life isn't fair and stop being crushed by unrealistic expectations. You focus on what you can control and release the rest. You train your willpower through small, chosen hardships so you're ready for the big, unchosen ones. You detach from outcomes and fall in love with the process itself. You live urgently, aware that time is limited. And through it all, you hold fast to virtue, building a life of integrity rather than performance. When you walk this path, you discover something profound. You don't need the world approval. You don't need everyone to understand you or agree with you. You only need to be solid within yourself. The storms of life will still come, but they can't shake you. You become like a mountain, unmoved by the winds of opinion, steady through the seasons of change. This is not an easy journey. Most people will never take it because it demands honesty, discipline, and courage. But if you've come this far, something inside you is ready. Maybe you're tired of living at the mercy of external events. Maybe you're done with the emotional roller coaster of chasing highs and avoiding lows. Maybe you're ready to stop merely surviving and start truly living. Whatever brought you here, know this. You have everything you need to begin. As a final act of commitment, speak your intention out loud or write it in the comments. I am becoming unshakable day by day. This isn't just a feel-good affirmation. It's a declaration of the path you've chosen. Each day, with each small choice, you are building a stronger, freer version of yourself. And as you grow, you inspire others to do the same. The world doesn't need more noise, more division, more people chasing shallow status symbols. It needs individuals who are grounded, principled, and awake. Imagine what would happen if more people lived this way. Families would heal because citizens focused on what they could control instead of endlessly blaming others. The ripple effect of one person walking the Stoic path is immeasurable. Your journey begins now. Not tomorrow, not next year, but in this very moment. Life will keep testing you, but you no longer have to face it unprepared. The tools are ancient, but their power is timeless. With these 8 laws, you can build a life of clarity, strength, and meaning, a life where you don't just weather the storm, but stand tall within it. And as you do, you'll discover the most liberating truth of all: path to becoming unshakable. Let's reflect on what we've uncovered together, because these ideas are not just intellectual, they're deeply practical, and they can change your life if you apply them. First, we learn to face difficulty instead of running from it. Discomfort isn't punishment, it's your training ground. Every obstacle, every hardship, every rejection is an invitation to grow. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." From now on, instead of saying, "Why me?" start asking, "What is this teaching me?" Second, we explored the power of mastering your emotions. Emotions are natural, but when they control you, you become their slave. Epictetus warned, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master." The next time someone tries to provoke you, pause. Breathe. Choose your response instead of reacting blindly. That pause is freedom. Third, we face the uncomfortable truth that life is not fair. Good people suffer. Bad people sometimes win. The world doesn't operate on a simple reward system. When you stop expecting fairness, you stop being crushed by its absence. You reclaim your energy too. Focus on what truly matters: your own character and choices. Fourth, we practice the Stoic discipline of focusing only on what you can control. Your thoughts, actions, and reactions are yours. Everything else, opinions, events, external circumstances, is not. Imagine the peace you'll feel when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable and start mastering yourself. Fifth, we discovered the power of voluntary hardship. By intentionally seeking out small challenges, fasting, cold showers, saying no to luxury, you build inner strength. When real crises come, you won't be shocked or broken. You'll be ready because you've rehearsed for it. Sixth, we learn to detach from outcomes and fall in love with the process. Success and failure are beyond your full control. What matters is showing up with integrity every day. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "Never let the future disturb you." You will meet it with the same weapons of reason which today arm you. Against the present. Focus on the work, not the result. 7th, we embrace the urgency of life by remembering death. Memento mori, remember that you will die. Not to be morbid, but to wake up. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Stop waiting for someday. Live now, fully and intentionally. Finally, we arrived at the heart of Stoicism. Virtue. In a noisy world obsessed with applause and validation, Marcus Aurelius gave us the ultimate compass. Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter. Your worth is not measured by likes, followers, or praise. It's measured by your integrity. When you weave these 8 laws together, you create a life of incredible strength. You stop being a leaf blown around by every gust of wind. You become the tree with deep roots, unshaken by storms. This doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means you become unstoppable. Now, I want you to think about your own journey. Which of these laws resonated with you most? Which one felt like a challenge you're ready to face? Share it in the comments below. Writing it out will help solidify it in your mind, and it will inspire others who are walking this path alongside you. And as a final act of commitment, I invite you to type this affirmation into the comments. I am becoming unshakable day by day. This isn't just a nice phrase. It's a declaration of your intent to live differently, to stop living in quiet defeat, and start living with clarity and purpose. If this video spoke to you, don't let it end here. Like this video right now to help spread these ideas to others who need them. Share it with someone who's going through a difficult time or searching for meaning. You never know whose life you might change with a single share. And if you want to take an even deeper stand, consider supporting this channel directly through YouTube's Super Thanks feature. Every donation, no matter the size, helps me keep creating videos like this, videos that aren't shallow entertainment, but deep explorations meant to challenge and uplift. When you give through Super Thanks, you're not just supporting me, you're investing in a movement of conscious, resilient living. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. The journey of growth doesn't end with one video. Each week, we'll explore new ideas, new practices, and new ways to live with purpose in a chaotic world. By subscribing, you're joining a tribe of thinkers, warriors, and creators who are committed to building a life of meaning. As we close, remember this. You don't need the world to change for you to be free. You don't need universal approval, perfect circumstances, or endless comfort. You already have everything you need inside you. The storms of life will still rage, but you will stand firm because you've built a foundation no one can take away. One day, your life will end. That a fact none of us can escape. But between now and that final moment, you have a choice. You can drift, distracted and fragile, or you can live intentionally, courageously, and virtuously. When that day comes, you won't measure your life by applause or possessions. You'll measure it by the strength of your soul and the love you gave. So, step into the arena. Embrace the discomfort. Master your emotions. Accept life's chaos. Focus on what you can control. Train your willpower. Detach from results. Live urgently. And above all, hold fast to virtue. This is your path to becoming unshakable. Walk it boldly. Live it fully. And never forget, you have the power to shape your inner world, no matter what happens outside of it. Now, take one final deep breath and type it in the comments. I am becoming unshakable day by day. Then go out and prove it with every choice you make. The world is watching. More importantly, you're watching. Make yourself proud.